We got a lot of wind going on out here out at Eaton, but nonetheless a beautiful day for football. You're listening to the Cheap Seats on 96.3 WLCN. Cameron Kurtz and Josh Comnick back out here. We are now joined by Lincoln head football coach Jared Shaner. Coach, thanks for being out here with us. But before we jump into that with Coach's comments, I'm going to turn things over, and Josh Comnick, if you would, break down area football for us.
Yeah, while we've got Coach in the house here, we'll go through the Central State 8 scoring. Jacksonville beat Jerseyville last night 41-14. The Lonergan quarterback, who was a passing machine last year, threw for 417 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. Springfield beat Southeast 49-6. They scored on their first 5 possessions, I believe. First 5 possessions, Springfield had a touchdown. Taylorville outlasts Lanphier 27-3. And, of course, the big game tonight, Sacred Heart Griffin plays Chatham Glenwood. Coach, and Rochester was victorious at Rochester. Their inaugural game in the Central State 8 over your Railers, 56-7. And, Coach, before we get into the game, how was practice this week? Obviously, the guys were pumped up. They're tired of practicing against each other. They're tired of hearing you yell at them all the time and that kind of thing. But practice was good, ready to go. Felt you had the troops ready.
Yeah, definitely. We had, I'd say, one poor practice during the week where the kids just kind of, like you said, they're tired of hitting each other, right, and, tired of the heat and all that stuff and ready for a game, but the rest of them were very good. And even at the beginning of the game, I felt like we were ready to go last night. The kids were definitely fired up before it, and that's one thing I don't think we'll have a problem with this group of kids is their motivation is good. They're a pretty fiery group, and they get themselves excited, and so that's good for a coach to see.
Yeah, exactly, Coach. And it sounded like from a number of people I've talked to already this morning, I wasn't able to make it to the game, but I did listen to, of course, 96.3 Bobby V and the coach Ken Schweitzer had the call. But it sounded like a great crowd. Of course, Rochester was going to bring a lot of fans, but I heard from a number of Lincoln people that the Lincoln fans were just packed. The section was packed. They were lined up along the fence. So a good opening night.
Absolutely. Very impressed with the people that came down, walking out to the field. We had probably a few dozen students playing some bags and grilling out, and that's great when those kids come out and support their classmates and things. Lots of family and friends out there, and Rochester had a great crowd. It was a beautiful night.
Sure.
They have an awesome facility and just a neat night for football.
Coach, of course, not the outcome that you were looking for on the opener of the season, but as I was listening in the first half, it just seemed like we were, of course, the first set of downs, we went 4 and out. They came back and scored right away. But you talk about your guys matched up and went right down the field, got down into the red zone, and just couldn't punch it in. But as far as the first half, I thought you moved the ball. It sounded like you moved the ball well. And offensively, you gained some yardage.
Yeah, really, that's kind of the story. We went in last night. Coaches watched film, and kids are watching some now, and there were some positive things to take. I was very disappointed. Just got done watching it. I think there was about a minute 30 left in the first quarter. We were down on the 1 yard line, had first and goal from inside the 5, and got down to the 1. And you have to be able to score at that point. It would have been 7-7 going into the second quarter. So we didn't score. They come down and score again. It's 14-0. We take another long drive. We have a nice 4th down conversion where we run a little fake punt. That leads us down to the 4 yard line. Could have very easily been 14-7 midway through the second quarter. And then, as a coach, and then especially watching the film this morning, you just get that very similar feeling you do when you play Griffin, and that's that, if you don't capitalize on those, we really use the clock well, but if you don't score, they're going to turn around and, they have some unbelievable big play ability. So,
yeah, you're exactly right, and that's one thing I wanted to ask you is, after that first and goal inside the 5, you don't score. You come back down a few possessions later. You're inside, I believe it's about the 6 yard line, and don't punch it in there. Did you feel something from the guys that said, "Man, if we just didn't do it then, how are we gonna get it any other time?"
No, thank goodness I didn't. Obviously they're disappointed. The coaches are disappointed, but again, with this group, they are a positive group. They have a lot of leadership and things like that. So, they came off the field. We felt like we needed to get a stop, and I don't remember if it was that specific drive or if it was another one, but they moved the ball on us, but they ended up going for it, I think, threw a ball on third down, and Stephen Duncan had an interception in the end zone. So we held them on that drive, and felt like we got the ball at the 20. Maybe we could have put something together, and we went for it on fourth and down again, and just didn't make a real good throw and catch there. But again, from a coaching standpoint, disheartening not to get in the end zone there. I said it after the game. I don't know that last night that's the difference in the game. It's not, as a matter of fact. But that's not to say that this coming Friday or the following one that, a punch in the end zone from 1 yard out isn't the difference in a game.
Right, and you're talking about that's a big difference when you don't score and then they come back and really big playability like you talked about. There were several times they went 3, 5. I think there were 2 times in the game that they've had 5-play touchdown drives where and they were in their territory and made those kind of drives. But 4th and 1, a number of different times you were 4th and 1 in the first half, and your guys buckled down and got you some big yardage, especially Lysinger and that line. The quarterback sneaks seemed to be working.
They did. That's one thing that we've talked to the kids quite a bit about. We run a little quarterback sneak play, and I kind of put all the pressure on the kids at that point and say, you know what, it's 1 yard. The defense knows what's coming. The offense knows what's coming. And most of the people in the crowd know what's coming. It's a matter of buckling down and getting a yard. And to our kids' credit, we did that several times on 4th down last night.
Coach, taking a look at your schedule here, we see next week, September the 3rd, you will be at home against Canton. If you would kind of break down that game for us a little bit, are you going to exchange film with the Canton coaches staff at all?
Yes, that's on my agenda today, along with a bunch of other things. But I'm going to head up to Morton and meet the Canton coach. We'll take week 1 film and trade it, and then we each decided we could choose a game from last year. So they played Dunlap High School really well last year. So we'll get that film from them. We'll have a couple films. We also had a chance. We played 7-on-7 against them this year at Washington High School and had a game against them. So we got a little chance to get a preview of them there too.
What are some of your thoughts going in to next week? Obviously disappointed from the loss last night, and I'm sure you'll back me up on this. A loss is always going to be disheartening, but you probably want to make sure you get your players fired up once again. And kind of what are your thoughts going into next week?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a matter of fact, we just covered it with the kids. I got out to the school pretty early this morning and just tried to kind of collect all my thoughts and give them some notes, put up on the board. And, the last thing that I had up there was, I can promise you this, nobody will take it harder than I will. And I probably let it eat at me a little too long. But I gave them Sunday at 5 p.m. That was the magic day and time. And you can feel bad about Rochester, and you should feel bad about Rochester until Sunday at 5 p.m. And at that point, you've got to shift your thinking, your mentality, and your focus. And it can't be, what we did or didn't do against Rochester. At that point, it's got to be what we're going to do against Canton. They're a completely different team, style-wise and tradition-wise and some recent success-wise than Rochester is. I feel like our kids will be very prepared for them. Definitely match up physically better with them. So we're excited about having a good week of practice and coming back out on Friday and being able to do it again.
We will be out at the Christian Village next week. The Christian Village is where we will be, so we invite all our listeners to tune in and call in. If there is anything that you want to talk about, call in for that. We will be there, Josh and I. That's going to do it for the Cheap Seats Sports Open Line program here on 96.3. I'm Cameron Kurtz. He's Josh Komnick. For all of our sponsors, thank you, and for everyone who's put in time and dedication into the show this week, we thank you for that. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, get on out to the Art and Balloon Festival. Until next weekend, we'll see you down the road.